How's it going, everybody? Adrian Simple here from the Gaming Observer, and welcome back to your daily news update for Monday, August 31st. Thank you for your patience with my absence over the weekend, and we have some very interesting things to talk about here today. Let's go ahead and do that, shall we? The Kickstarter for the Suikoden spiritual successor, Eiyuden Chronicle, has been successfully funded, raising $4.5 million American dollars, which is far above the $500,000 target. This now makes it the third most successful video game ever funded on Kickstarter, behind Shenmue 3 and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. And also, out of the top 10 games, it has the second best average dollars spent per backer, only falling behind the MMO Ashes of Creation. And perhaps the most interesting recent developments for the game is that one of the last stretch goals that they met was the promise to make an entirely new companion game, which is going to be a town creation RPG. Here's the description of it, quote, "This companion game will release before the main game, which will hopefully hold you over during the excruciatingly long 2.5-year wait, and includes different lifestyle minigames that let you gather different materials to build up your house. The idea is that these materials will transfer over to Eiyuden Chronicle, allowing you a head start at crafting some of the different items, armor, etc. in the game." End quote. If any of you are familiar with Bloodstained, they also did a similar thing with what they called Curse of the Moon, and that companion title ended up being so successful that they developed a sequel to it as well, which is really cool. Anyway, if you are a backer of the game and you want the companion game, you are going to have to add an additional charge on top of what you have already pledged, and that's just due to the costs of development. Eiyuden Chronicle is being developed by a number of the original creators of Suikoden. You should definitely keep your eye on it if you have had your eye on Suikoden in the past, and it is slated for release on most platforms in 2022. From a lackluster presentation to egregious marketing decisions, Marvel's Avengers has not started on a great foot. This weekend, we received word of how they plan on monetizing the game. Now, they have previously announced that new characters and playable stories and missions are going to be entirely free to those of you who purchase the game. So all additional content is going to be free. However, Avengers is going to be a living game, games as a service, as they say. So they need to make more money somehow, and they're going to be doing that with cosmetics. Now, obtaining these cosmetics are primarily going to be done through what they call the Hero Challenge Card system, and essentially this is a battle pass for individual superheroes. Every single superhero is going to have their own battle pass, and as you play as that hero, you'll gain experience to level it up. Each one of those battle passes is going to cost 10 American dollars. They will never be rotated out or expired like many of these living games are, and you are able to fast-track them by purchasing additional skips. Now, the interesting thing here is that if you do completely fill out a card, you eventually earn back the money that you spent on that card, meaning you technically only need to ever buy one card, and then if you fill it all the way out, you can just buy another one with what you earned. However, that means you're only going to be able to, get the cosmetics to a single hero at a time. I think they're banking on you wanting to purchase multiple at a time. Anyway, feel free to judge this system as you choose. My only advice is that based on everything that this game has been showing off in the past little while, just hold off until other people have had the chance to experience it in depth. Because as tends to happen with these AAA games, there might be something here that's going to disappoint you. Okay, and our final story for today, the first DLC for Doom Eternal is called The Ancient Gods Part 1, and we now know that it is going to be a standalone title from the main game. So yes, this means that you can play the Doom Eternal DLC without completing or even owning the main campaign. Here's how they explain it, quote, "Most people would associate DLC with being of smaller scope. It's kind of like the made-for-TV version of the movie, and the movie was the main game. For us, this is very much like a 2-part film. This is every bit as grand as the main game was." End quote. So he's basically saying, hey, the DLC is huge, we're going to make it separate. And it's interesting because how they've structured this content is something that is really rare for the industry, because most standalone expansions are standalone only. If you do own Doom Eternal, then technically this is just a DLC for that game. But now what they've done is they've given a continuation of the story for people who already loved the game, while simultaneously opening up a cheaper option for those people who haven't played it, which is something, honestly, I'm surprised we don't see more often. Anyway, folks, if you're interested in picking it up, the Year 1 pass for the game can be purchased for around $30. That'll include both DLC planned for the game. Alright folks, that is going to wrap us up for today. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you haven't already, please make sure you go over to thegamingobserver.com/newsletter, where I send out these daily updates via email every single day, with links and a full written description of every story. And thank you for all your positive comments on that. Folks, that'll be all for today. Until next time, happy gaming, everyone. Oh, hello, TGO After-Show. I apologize for not getting to the mailbag this past weekend. I very much meant to, but hey, what can I say? These weekend shows, I think, are, as you know, taking a little bit of a backseat while my life goes into chaos. But I think that's fair, right? I think the main appeal of this show is the news anyway, so I've kind of committed myself to that. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I hope you're all doing well. To my fellow students, best of luck with school coming up. I mean, man, for me, that's coming next week, which is just... I mean, this is literally the least amount of preparation I've ever had for school, because it's going to be all online. I don't have to buy any materials, I don't have to, make sure my backpack is still in working order. All I have to do is log in at the right time, I guess. So it's kind of weird. And also, I'm really scared, because this is going to be the first time that I'm doing the Observer and school and have a job at the same time. And I am hopefully prepared. I know a lot of you who are listening probably work a lot harder than that is ever going to be. So, I say that with full understanding that it comes from, a position of privilege, that I didn't have to work for most of university. And I still don't have to work for university, right? I'm doing it because it's going to potentially give me a career, and that's a great thing. But ultimately, if things get too stressful, I am able to drop one thing or the other, and that's, I'm glad I at least have that backup. And, now that I've said that, I should mention... I think I've said a few times, actually, that I'm kind of in this privileged position. And I do say that without actually being like I'm not rich or anything. I grew up in a very middle to low class family. I would say that there was a period of life in which I was poor. However, there are a number of circumstances that have kind of snowballed in the later years of my life that were very much unexpected, that have left me to be able to survive comfortably. And thankfully, because of how I grew up, and especially how Shelby grew up, we both kind of have these very humble beginnings. And so we're actually able to appreciate the fact that we have a bit of security right now, and unlike many of my fellow university students, are not hanging on by a thread. And because of that enables me to do things like the Observer and like having a job, and get a degree, all at the same time. Anyway, that is totally not what I was intending to talk about here on the show, but I guess that's kind of what happens, right? What I will say is that, man, I'm still so not excited for the Avengers. I know I go on and on about it, but I mean, come on. $10 per battle pass? I understand that you can get your money back by the end of each of those battle passes. However, I imagine that's going to be a significant time investment that they want you to just, spend money on the skips. It kind of reminds me of what happened with Battlefront 2, to be honest. Where it was 80 hours to unlock Yoda, or just your favorite Star Wars character. Or you could pay for it, after already paying the $60 American on the title. It's not exactly the same, because you can still play the character, at least. I mean, these are just skins. But still, it's oh man. I guess if there was any brand that can get away with this, it probably is Avengers, Marvel, maybe Star Wars, if this is the route that they went. But ultimately, I just feel anyway, you know what I'm saying. Folks, that'll be all for today. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, farewell.